Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. Coming up in this episode, Elon Musk is sued again. The NSA has security tips for your phone. And what are each of our favorite AI tools? We're going to chat about what we're using in the AI world and what our favorite tools are. And make sure to stick around, speaking of AI, until the end for our AI-generated weekly themed outro song.
Welcome to the Not Null Podcast. I'm just an AI voice. But here are your real hosts, Kevin Doyle, Bobby Davis, Paul Bratslavsky, and Sarah Kimmel.
All right, so our favorite person in the world, Elon Musk, recently had a conference or whatever to promote Tesla's new robo-taxi. And in the course of this conference, he used imagery that looked really close to Blade Runner 2049. And I'm going to say really close because it's basically it, but it was AI generated. And the problem is that first he asked Warner Brothers if he could use this clip from Blade Runner 2049, and they said no. And then he goes ahead and AI creates it and uses that anyway. So
it's like ScarJo all over again, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's like the OpenAI ScarJo thing all over again.
Right. So exactly. So the Scarlett Johansson thing where they asked her and then she said no. And then they're like, okay, but we can generate your voice, basically anyway. And we really like your voice. So we're just going to use it. So my first question is, why do they keep, if they're just going to AI generate it, why do they keep asking for permission first? Because it kind of puts it on their radar of like, oh, you wanted to use this. And then when the actual thing comes out, they're like, oh, no, you totally still used this. Like with the Scarlett Johansson thing and with this, like, why are they asking for permission?
It makes deniability a non-defense, doesn't it? They
Right.
can't use it. They can't use deniability. Whereas if they hadn't said anything, they could have just denied that it's like, oh, of course. How do you have the copyright on like a guy standing against a post-apocalyptic orange background, right? Like how could they say that? But the fact that they'd asked them and then gone ahead and created that makes it such a slam dunk that it's obvious that's what they're trying to use it for.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think in their mind, they were like, we're going to be the better person. Before stealing it, we're going to ask.
But then
And
we're
if
going to
they
steal
say
it
no,
anyway. They're going to say no,
We're going to steal it anyway, like we planned, but at least we gave them the heads up. And I think that's in their crazy mind how their defense in court is like, well, we gave them the heads up. They could have said yes, but no.
And I think that you're talking about the court version, and I think that's what their defense is going to be. Like, they asked for permission to use the actual footage, but since they didn't get permission, they AI generated similar footage that's not quite the same. So there's my second question: is a similar thing close enough? Like, is this the great value version of the clip? Or
this is going to get played out, right? This has to get I don't think there's any particular law for this yet, right?
Right.
Against, because they're going to claim this new ground that like, hey, it's AI, therefore no other previous kind of law can stand because it's not copyright, because it's not the original thing, or it's not a likeness because an AI did it. The first one to kind of prove this out, it's either going to open the floodgates and everything's going to be a thing and you can do whatever you want with anything anymore,
right.
or it's going to really kind of like hold, I think, the producers of AI accountable for this kind of like reproduction of things.
I don't know if you saw Wall Street Journal sue Perplexity this week over news articles.
They did, yeah.
I was saying that their searches, and so we'll see. I think all of this has come to the head, like we said in the very beginning. Like, you gotta like respect copyright in this stuff. I don't understand why, as enhanced as Tesla and those guys are, the guy shows you the image, like, oh, that's cool. It looks like Blade Runner. Change the background to blue.
Right.
That's what I would have said. Just change it to blue,
but he didn't.
Make it a girl, and then we're done. You know, like, and then you're done.
I think here's was the explicit instructions. Make them look just like Blade Runner 2049, and I don't care. They're going to look like Blade Runner 2049, because if there's a penalty for it, I'm the richest man on the planet.
Yeah.
I'll just pay it.
But I
doesn't
hope
care.
what happens is that, and I don't care if people come for me with pitchforks, but I think, as much as I hate the corporations, I think the movie industry and the music industry should stand up for copyright and kind of put their foot down, because I'm still in the middle, to be honest, and I could go either way with enough common sense that people add, because I heard both stories. But at the same time, if it's a movie like Blade Runner that costs millions of dollars and you could just do a prompt and get its likeness that's close enough. I played with AI systems in the past, even like one where I was like, I'm going to fine tune this model to generate my face. If I don't put my face into the system as data, it will never generate me. So the only way that it's able to generate my face is that it had training data that's based on my face. By same logic, if the only way it could create a scene from, Blade Runner is because it had it as training data, which then says, is that right?
Right.
And I think what they're going to need to define in the courts is how much does a thing need to change until it's not copyright anymore. And because I think before you can't use the exact thing, right? But can you, like Bobby was saying, just change it to background blue and we're good? That's changing almost 50% of the image, but it's really not, because it's just changing one color. How much does it need to change?
That they legally have to kind of protect their IP and their copyright, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's always been a thing. That's historically been a thing. If a company bought out a cola that used a blue and red can, Pepsi legally had to sue them to protect that. Otherwise, if they didn't, then it became free for everybody to do it if they didn't sue them. So they've legally had to do that. So I think in this case, it should just be the same thing. The difference here is, instead of some person bringing out the cola with the blue and red can, the AI said, hey, why don't you bring out a cola with a blue and red can? And then people are just claiming well, I didn't say it. The AI did it. So who's responsible?
Let's be fair, though. They are suing it because it is Elon that did it.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think, no. Here's what I think. Elon is the only person that would do this. And OpenAI are the only people that would do this. We're not hearing about these other suits from other smaller people. I think he's, like I said before.
That's what
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. OpenAI and Elon, the two,
right.
Sam Altman and Elon Musk, who think they're literal gods at this point. They both think they can do anything and get away with it. I guarantee it. It's the people.
Well, I think Apple would have made their own image. That's the difference between the two on the design element. They would make it their own thing. They would have made their own dystopian universe or whatever. It would all have been chrome and silver. It would have screamed Apple. That's what I'm saying. They should have just made it red or something like that. That's like,
but
Tesla,
this guy. You know how this conversation went. He literally told the designer, I want Blade Runner 2049. And the guy's like, of course he has to do it. Because if he doesn't, he's an egomaniac and we'll fire him.
Yeah.
It's true. Ultimately, if that's what he wants, that's what you make. But it seems like the marketing department would have said, let's swap the guy character for a girl character.
Yeah.
Let's change the aesthetic from a different palette that doesn't scream Blade Runner 2049, because that is a very distinctive color palette. That's why I said change it to blue, because when you look at all the frames from Blade Runner, you can immediately say, "Oh, that looks like Blade Runner." That's the neon, city and rain. It's been copied so many times; it's iconic at this point. So
yeah. And I think for all of this, all these different cases coming up that we haven't quite figured out what and how to deal with this, because I still think in music, for instance, if I create something, if it's transformative enough, even though it's based on something else I heard, it's okay. But if it's not transformative enough, so it's this sliding scale of where or how much transformation you have done. The issue I have with AI is that it's not a human that is transforming it. It's a machine, and it's using data based on sources based on copyrighted material. And so I think they need to figure out the balance. But at the same time, I've seen AI being used in a very transformative way, where again, they using Midjourney and something like, I think it's Railway, the video app that allows them to create these new pieces where they will reimagine, let's say, a movie like Superman and like the style of the 1950s. And it's like,
I've seen all of those.
Kind of making like they're copying Superman or whatever, or
Star Wars,
but it's a cool, interesting spin. And so how much creative freedom do you give people to allow them to create content like that, but it's not, going against the trademark? And I think it's a balancing act. But I think like people need to figure out what that is, because
wonder what the damage here is. Like sometimes when you sue someone, you got to have a damage. What is the damage of the picture here?
Well, they said that they've said that the Tesla brand is now tied to Blade Runner, associated with Blade Runner. So if you're the person on the other side of that, I would be kind of annoyed as a non-Tesla fan, a hater of Elon Musk. I'd be like, now my brand's tainted by this guy who's over here doing weird stuff.
Or
money
he
you
did catch a rocket, though. You got to give him some props on that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, some engineers did.
If you're a director, though, hold on. That's true too. If I was a director and that happened to me, I would have been like, I'm making Blade Runner 3 next. And I would come up with some creative story and walk back everything, like, in the movie, just and then be like, oh, it wasn't you, Elon Musk, in our movie. It's a person like you that was AI generated.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure he'd like that.
You can't sue us based on the previous lawsuit that you made against us.
Yeah.
So or whatever.
It's Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon.
Yeah.
So here's my last question about this to you guys is first, I just lost it for a second, but because there is no legal precedent, who do you think is going to win this case?
I think the damage I think they'll win on base of copyright, but the damage will be like $1.
Sure.
Because it's not like they made a movie or anyone's going to confuse this with Blade Runner 2049 and Harrison Ford.
Right.
Ryan Gosling. But like, it was a singular image, I think, or was it a movie, or what did they made a singular image?
It was a clip.
Right?
No, like it was a small clip. Like,
okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know what the damages is. I don't know if there really is any other than if you. I don't know how you can prove them. Put it that way.
Right.
Right.
How do you put a monetary value on it? I have no idea. But I agree with you. I think they'll win. I think Scarlett Johansson will also win against OpenAI. I think it's the same. I think whichever one wins first, they end up settling.
That one's easy because they could have hired her to do that.
No, they tried to hire her to do that.
They tried to. And I think it's the same case here. Yeah, I think it's the same thing. They say no, they do it anyway. It's almost, it feels like the same thing to me. So I think whichever one goes ahead first, the other one ends up just being like, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to use this.
Well, I guess the difference is like in this one, they wanted to use a clip from a pre-made movie, whereas Scarlett, they needed an original work from her, and they just copied her original work that they normally would have paid her to do. And I think that's why she'll win to like $30 to $50 million.
Yeah.
Here, I don't think there's any damage to Gosling or Harrison Ford or
I don't know. Harrison Ford doesn't be
Warner
associated
Brothers.
with Elon Musk.
Do you think, this is the second part of this question, do you think if they hadn't asked first, if the case would be closer?
Yeah, because they would just have deniability.
Right.
And that's because that's what they
I haven't seen Blade Runner. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Like what? Again, what makes you think you can have a copyright on a guy standing in front of a post-apocalyptic city that's orange colored? Like, if you hadn't asked, then you'd have been like, that would have been your excuse, and I'm sure they would have used that excuse. But now they can't use that excuse.
So if you're trying to steal somebody's work, just don't ask first. That's the moral of this story.
That's the way of going about it.
I don't think you mess with movie studios. They kind of come after you.
But that's the thing I'm wondering. Is this going to set the precedence where the movie studio is going to be like, we get a taste of what's coming. Let's prepare and start putting things in motion where we could go after.
Napster doesn't exist, man.
What's insane to me, not the movie industry, but a company that's been suing everybody for the tiniest infringement on anything is Nintendo. They basically, if you have an emulator that you created or what have you, they just shut everything down. And not saying that everybody should be like Nintendo, but I think when it comes to copyrighted material generated by AI systems, I think there should be some sort of standard and some sort of rule, because right now nobody knows how far can you go, like in terms of pushing it to a point until it's like obviously this is Blade Runner, or it's just like, where's the line basically? Because I've seen a lot of AI generate stuff. I could tell you where the training data came from.
Well, they're going to have to make deals just like publishers are, right? Just like New York Times, whatever it is, and these companies that are trying to make deals with OpenAI and there's other people. It all comes down to, can I make a deal for training data because you've sucked up all of my movies, right? The training data is part of the movies are part of that. Like, what cut do I get of that? And when you like exponentially like think about that, the amount of training the data that goes in there, are they going to pay everybody? No, they can't afford to pay everybody.
Yeah.
It's cost too much money, so they don't want to pay anybody.
But do you think the big companies, for instance, OpenAI may be allegedly be like, oh man, like these movie, I don't know any movie companies, whatever, just insert name of one.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers. It's like, they're a big player. They could give us a lot of trouble. So we'll make a deal with them where we say, oh, sure, here's your kickback. But all the little companies who can't fight those battles is like, oh, I don't know what to tell you.
That's exactly what's happening right now on the content side of things, on written content, right?
Yep.
They're dealing with the New York Times and Forbes and all these other ones, but Joe Schmo's blog who got eaten up, he's got he's not even going to talk to him.
Here's the scary version of this for the AI companies is we're now figuring out that LLMs aren't that hard to create, especially if you're Wall Street Journal. And so I think they're going to opt out of all of this stuff and say, you can't be in there, period, because I'm going to use my own LLM. If you want to search Wall Street Journal, I'm going to put it in there and then expose an API to it. I think that's what all of these data people will do. I think the people that license their content initially up in AI are going to regret that eventually, because they could have just kept charge of it and then licensed it out through an API call, and then charge per query every time OpenAI wanted to come and look at it. They could charge for it. I think that's ultimately because it's easy to do. It's not as magical to do as it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we thought, wow, this is magic. And now you got Llama and you're like, so is it really that hard to do? Could I just train it myself? You really can.
The crazy part for me is that the damage has been done because your LLMs are only as good as your data. And if they already sucked up all the data, unless you have some sort of data that you kept
like news sources, like for news, Wall Street Journal, and those kind of publications, that's constantly news. The only thing that matters is usually the newer stuff, and that's the more weight on it. And I think eventually that's where ultimately they can win against OpenAI and say, don't suck up our stuff. I think Perplexity could get hit pretty hard by this. Okay, have you ever wondered when you get advice from someone and you're kind of skeptical? So if the NSA is giving us security advice, and what the NSA does, they probably have hacked into all of our devices, saying, hey, you need to do this. This is how you stay secure. So either they know a lot of things that we don't, or it doesn't work. But oddly enough, they say that you should turn your phone off at least once a week to keep it secure. And they give a whole list of things to do this. And some of them I follow really sharply. Like, I think the number one thing is never, ever, ever, ever connect to public Wi-Fi.
Amen.
Ever. I don't care if it's in the hotel, don't do it. I don't care if it's in the Starbucks, don't do it. Use your Wi-Fi. The second one is never charge your phone without something in between you and the charging device is the other one. So what I do is I have a little brick that I can set my phone on, and I plug the brick into the USB if it needs power. Yeah. That's what I do,
Yep. Yeah. Did anybody here actually turn their phones off ever?
No.
Only when
it
updates. When it updates, or like the other week when Verizon was down and I thought it was just my phone, I rebooted my phone, but only in those two circumstances do I reboot my phone.
Yeah, I got to say it's never part of my practice.
Yeah, rebooting. I was going to say, I think there's definitely, I'm sus on this tip of turning off your phone, because, if you're programmer and you make a bad app and it has memory leaks and it just keeps adding memory and whatever, and then you just have to restart it to fix it. I think that's what they're saying. They made it some bad code that they're like, man, we didn't think of this.
They're worried people will find out.
we need the customer reset. It's like, because it just keeps using your CPU usage, and over time it just goes to 100 and your phone's gonna explode. They're like, oh man, you just gotta tell them to reset it. How can we do it without making
That's
a big
a great
fuss about
conspiracy
it.
I was
Paul.
going to say, I think you nailed it, Paul. That's
Yes.
It's like, can
exactly
you
why
do
this
the
recommendation
factory
is coming
reset
out.
on your phone, because we can't really access your camera after like 10 days of use.
That is an extremely plausible conspiracy theory.
I wouldn't.
you've got there.
I think
I
that's
swear, you
pretty
start
much-
putting that online, you're going to get some like traction with that one.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the
You
other
have
one.
to get it from this podcast. That's all
Do
I'm
not
saying.
jailbreak or root the device. What do you think about that one?
Oh, I agree with that. I'm not going to jailbreak or root my device.
Even on Android?
Yeah. Like, it's not, I just don't think anything that would require me to jailbreak or root my device, I don't need it. Like, there's too much.
It's always grey, isn't it? It's always shady. What exactly do you need to do that for? And it's always like,
Right.
to run illegal somethings.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm just like, yeah, that's a hard pass again for me because it's just opens your phone up to too much. I'm like, I'm never going to do that.
So here's the one that I don't think we can do as a society because we've all been in a grocery store. It says, do not have sensitive conversations in the vicinity of other mobile devices.
Oh my goodness. What a tip. What a tip. Wow.
If only, right?
You know
if
what's
only.
funny about this? Because this just basically confirms that all the phones are listening.
Yeah.
Literally, like he just came out and acknowledged that
just
all the
said
phones are always on and always listening. Like, what
Yeah.
kind of news is that? And let me ask you this question. In any of those tips, did they mention like uninstall TikTok?
No, they did not.
Exactly.
They did not.
Exactly. So this whole
Kaspersky.
article is
Yeah.
sus.
That's
They're
great. Even the
literally-
NSA doesn't advise taking TikTok off your phone.
Yeah, it's no, but I was gonna say it's don't have a phone. That's it. That's my, it's
the only way
security
to be
tip
safe.
right there. It's the only way you could keep safe.
I was just thinking, the husband and wife having the argument in the Walmart, at night, and they're having it like this,
Right.
yelling at each other
Okay.
over what kind of Captain Crunch to get. And you're like, come on, bro. Like, just just
Can
get
I
one.
ask you guys a question? Do any of you do this in public?
No.
No, people that do, I have a huge pet peeve that I was like, if I
Right?
slap your phone out of your hand, it's total Tourette's
I
syndrome
don't
response.
understand why so many people do it.
I
Like,
don't know.
So let me tell you, in the midst of the pandemic, I saw someone who had their mask like this and then their phone like this. And I was just, you gotta be kidding me right now. I cannot take this right now. I don't care where
you're totally preventing stuff.
It's like, what are you doing? It's oh God.
Oh, people are dumb.
I love how they have like diagrams and like little happy face things, and this is nice.
That's fine.
Yeah, so here's my problem with this recommendation is first, rebooting it once a week. If they've got something running on your phone, they've already got it. Like, they have your information, they have what they need from your phone. Like, it's not something that they need to like continually run. They'll grab the data and go. Like, booting it once a week is not going to change any of that. And then I think Paul said earlier, like, they're just going to program their virus to boot back up on restart. Like,
Yeah, phone's home or something like that. Let me ask you another
Yeah.
question. It says don't click on pop-ups. Do y'all click on pop-ups? Is that like a problem?
Never.
So you're just like, you're using your phone or whatever, and then just a pop-up says, hey, install me. And you're like, sure.
Oh,
Let me just do that.
Seems legit.
But I guess people do it. That's why the NSA recommended it.
It's
Yeah.
true.
And some of these tips are just like almost like ruin the
I'm gonna
experience of
say
having a
this was-
phone too, though.
Yeah.
Like the turn off Bluetooth.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So then nothing
Yeah,
works.
So
that I want it to work
my
in.
watch I can never use my
Exactly.
watch.
Never use my
Right.
watch. Turn off location services when not needed. Yeah,
Yeah.
so my AirTags are never going to work until I need to know. It's like, that's useless information.
This
Yeah,
sounds like
Paul
a
said, just don't have a
ChatGPT
phone.
written post. That's all
Right,
I'm
a
saying.
ChatGPT
I think you
written
should
post.
copy and paste it. And if
Actually, the
this was
graphics
written
are
with
too good for
AI, I want to
ChatGPT,
know now. Was this article written with AI?
I gotta say though,
So
the one
with
that you said,
active-
Bobby, about trusted accessories is an interesting one. Like, people will go into, like, you go to any hotel these days or any airport, you traveled recently, they always have USB sockets now in the walls.
Don't use them.
Yeah.
Those are really bad. You want to use your
No.
regular one. When you got your phone, you got a plug with it. Or if you didn't these days, because they don't come with a plug anymore, you
Right.
bought the plug to charge the phone. That's what you want to use.
Use the
with.
brick. Use the brick.
Exactly. Or wireless charging, that's okay too. That won't be
Sure.
a problem. But also, don't use a cable that somebody gives you either. Like, those cables now can have technology built into the little cable paw that does exactly the same thing that the plug did.
No.
Like, and they look like a regular cable. It'll look like a USB-C cable. It is not. They're not necessarily a USB-C cable. They can have technology hidden in them that can call home or hack your phone or do whatever it needs to do to it to send the data somewhere.
I'll give you a pro
safe.
tip though, if you really want to know how to keep yourself secure. So you just lose your phone and get a new one.
Right.
Once a month.
You just use the burner.
Just like, or
you get a new
use the
burner
burner.
every week. It's
yeah,
like,
that's it. That's it. You know,
nobody's trying
Jason
to
as
Bourne it,
often
that's
as you
what you
change
do.
your
Jason
plates
Bourne.
on your blacked out, whatever.
If you're not
previous
eating your
drive.
SIM cards, you're not doing it right.
Yeah, exactly.
I was always
Man.
amazed at Jason Bourne's memory to remember all the phone numbers he had to call. So like, that's amazing. You got a new phone every 3 minutes. So,
So one of the
that's his true superpower.
Yeah. Seriously. One of the suggestions on here I also disagree with, and that is leverage biometrics. I mean, although I do have my fingerprint on my phone, but if I am like really concerned about somebody accessing my phone, I would not use biometrics. And that's because, and I think we've talked about this before, like police pull you over and, they have
Scan
probable
your
cause
face.
for your phone. All they need to do is hold it up to your face and they've unlocked it. Like,
Yeah.
or
And they're legally allowed to do that.
exactly.
Because that was
And-
proven in that case we talked about. before.
Exactly. Or, or grab your thumb and make you like do that, and that goes along to with kids. I talk to parents about that because I'm like, if you're a heavy sleeper, your kid could grab your hand and like unlock your phone with your thumbprint and you wouldn't know that they're like going into your phone and unlocking all of the parental controls that you've
my
set.
secret is don't use your thumb. Use a different finger.
Ooh, smart. Because then they're like, oh,
You got like
shoot,
your
the
pinky
thumb's
finger
not
and
working.
everything. I just see Bobby unlocking his phone. He's just like,
He's got his ring
like, what are you
finger.
doing?
I use the tip of my nose. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, you got
Right,
this.
right,
Okay,
got it.
Dr.
Paul's
Evil
spending
right
5
there.
minutes.
that guy's smelling his phone. No, I'm just trying to log back in. I forgot my password.
So it's been a couple of years now since like the AI revolution, if you want to call it that. And there's been a massive amount of applications and tools and services that use AI. So I thought it was about time that we kind of came back around, and I wanted to know what your guys like favorite AI tool or process or system or application or whatever. Like what's your go-to? And I didn't want to say like what's your most used, but what's your favorite? What would you consider your favorite AI tool here in, where are we? October 2024.
I'll go. Like, so if you guys remember, I'm the director of support for a call center, right? Summarizing agents' phone calls is what I use it the most for. So
Okay.
like I just hit like
What do you use for that?
it's a built-in tool to our call call center software. So it's an additional fee tool, but
Of course.
right, of course it is. But it's so much easier to just be like summarize call. It gets stuff wrong and like it doesn't give me all the information that I really want, but it gives me an idea of like what the phone call was about. So
Right.
it's helpful for me in that sense. But
Let me
that's
ask a question. Does that service pay for it, like per instance, or is it just all you can eat based on your monthly fee?
no. So it's a fee for the month. Like, so it's a all encompassing fee, no matter
Okay,
how many
cool.
times I use it. But but it is per agent. So like I have it available to me, and then like my managers, I have the ability to do it, but not like the individual agents.
Gotcha.
So would you say it saves you a massive amount of time then? Is it a real production?
Yeah, it does save me a lot of time because like sometimes these phone calls, like I wish there would often I've been like, I wish there was like a 2x speed that I can like listen to this phone call on. Cause sometimes it's like, a 30-minute, hour-long phone call. And like that's a lot of time for me to just like sit and listen to my agent, like talk to somebody, So a little summary, like, so if it gets escalated to me or something and I need to call this customer back, I need to know like what was generally discussed. I don't need to
Right.
know the whole conversation. So that can save me an hour of listening to a phone call
Wow.
for sure.
And I guess that's why it works, right? Because you don't need to understand every little nuance. Because I imagine it's not the best at understanding nuance.
It's not.
It's just good at getting just a general idea.
Right.
Which if that's all you need, then it's like it's a perfect scenario, isn't it? It's exactly what it should be used for.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's what I use it for the most for sure.
Okay. What about you, Paul? What's your favorite?
I got
AI
two.
tool?
I got Cursor AI for programming. It's pretty awesome. I've been loving it. And I use it as my secret tool to create technical blog posts, because after I build the app that I want to make, I have all the context of the code in the app. And so I could start writing a blog post inside a README file. And as I start typing, it's like, oh, this is the code snippet used. And so it was very, very convenient. So this is cool. And so I personally actually like to build my own tools to solve my problems. And I was building this tool that allows, my idea was I want to be able to point to like 5, 6, 7 different resources. It could be a YouTube video, PDF, or what have you. So I was building this app for myself where I'm able to do that. And then I could have a chatbot where I'm able to create stuff based on the research that I did. So there's a company that already did this, and they did it pretty well. So I put it in the chat in the link, cubby.nyc. That's like my second favorite tool, which basically allows you to pull resources from any source, an article, PDF, YouTube, podcast, video, audio, and docs, tweets, PowerPoint, what have you. And you have all that in your Cubby. And if you could scroll down a little bit, you could see kind of like what it does. You have it all inside your Cubby, and you're able to basically have a chat interface where you chat with all your documents to help you take notes and create stuff. So it's a very, very convenient way. And I was really upset that this company brought the thing to market that I was trying to build. That's what happens.
That doesn't mean you can't do it. It
money.
just means the market's been proved.
And so I know I'm not upset, to be honest. And
Make
the
a better
funny
version,
thing
Paul.
is one of the people I know works for this company. I was like, wow, what a small world. This is funny. And then I'm trying to be like, hey, when you did that YouTube transcript, how do you get the time codes to show up appropriately? But secrets. But yeah, so I'm all about using AI to save time and to be able to take data and make sense of it. So what I find AI is useful for me is taking my word salads that I come up with and organizing them in a way that I could process that makes sense. And the last thing I was going to say, my favorite prompt at ChatGPT when I write emails at work is I do my word salad. I put in ChatGPT and I type, make it make sense. And it just fixes everything perfect. The points are still there. So
I like
that's
that.
tip of the week
perfect.
for all you.
Prompt engineer.
Yeah,
prompt engineer. There you go.
Per year.
this
Let's
makes
go.
sense.
That's all we need. Meta prompts.
And it works surprisingly well. You get a lot of like a lot of good feedback. Like, oh, you've been really upping your email game. I'm like, no, thanks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Bobby, what you got?
GitHub Copilot. I'm using that. I use it every day now. I've been recording YouTube videos, and I first had turned Copilot off because it gets in the way, and I've turned it on. And I have a love-hate relationship with this tool because it does get in the way sometimes. Sometimes it won't stop recommending until you take it. It's like a nagging, partner or something like that. Listen. Like, no, I got it. Did you take the trash out? I did. They'll just and so it's always recommending it. And it's like, stop. And sometimes you have to hit escape, left several times or whatever. But it does pretty good. The thing that it doesn't do, and I don't think it ever will, is it just isn't writing code for me like people think it does. I still have to know quite a bit about it to do it. And so I'm actually paying for Copilot. I'm paying for GitHub or ChatGPT. And I do use ChatGPT as well. So like when I want to like prompt on something that's even about coding that is like more generalized, hey, how does this work with whatever? I'm over in ChatGPT doing it instead of in Copilot because I don't like the UI over there. So I pay for them both. And then I do use ChatGPT sometimes. I'll take the code base out of here, stick it in ChatGPT and say, hey, write a blog article or write a post on this and break it down into steps. It's kind of my secret prompt. Given this code base, write an article, break it down into steps. And then it'll kind of generate stuff. Now, what I have noticed that even when I give it the code base, it gets it wrong. Even like the snippets will be wrong, and you have to go through and edit them and change them. And so that's what I tell people. Like, even if you take my meta prompt there, like, just know that like if you're doing it just based on some code you copied from another GitHub repo and you want to like quickly make blog articles on knowledge you don't have, it'll embarrass you.
Yeah.
Right. You've still got to understand what its outcome's supposed to be.
Yeah, I wrote an article the other day, just to give you an example, and I had some guys checking it for me, and it was based on a database and had SQL queries in it. And the guy says, "Hey, this SQL query is wrong." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "This entity doesn't exist." And I'm like, I hadn't read it close enough to like, oh wow, it just totally misread
so
that.
funny.
So like,
made it up.
Went back and changed it. But we do check them here at Coder Foundry, so like that's what we do. So
what's crazy, you could automate that whole process. And
with Cubby.
Not with Cubby, but just in general with AI, you could, I mean, there's multiple.
Oh, write an agent to do it?
Yeah, you could have basically, you could pick a topic and have it automatically do the research, figure out like what to write, and then write that blog post for you and then post it on your website, which is kind of insane to me. And a lot of companies are doing it. It's called like programmatic SEO, where they're creating optimized SEO content, and it works. And I've seen some companies that do it well, where they have human in the loop that puts the final touches and reviews everything. But then I also seen people like do it terribly. But the thing that upsets me is that it works, and so there's incentive for people to do that. Like,
so we're definitely the human in the loop thing, probably like 2 or 3 humans. Like, so one of the things that we know that AI does that we don't like is titles. Like, the titles are terrible. It's going to be something, blah, 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 colon, the thing you didn't know, like it's so like, it's just always like that. And then in conclusion, colon, the thing you didn't know. And so we are always, Kevin and I are always changing titles, stuff like that.
Are you like legit, not that's the wrong word. Are you curious about creating a more automated SEO driven publishing?
Yeah, we are going to write a lot of blog articles this year. And so what we do is right now is we are putting those topics together, and then from ChatGPT, we can probably like, hey, what do you think about this idea? And then it'll give us something. And then, believe it or not, we'll take that, put it into a Google document, and start writing it together in the same screen.
There's a tool called AirOps, and there's a company that I work with for my other job, GrowthX. If you ever wanted to kind of see the demo of how to use it, I actually have an account. I use it on my personal site too, but you could automate bulk of the, having it come up with titles, descriptions, like SEO, and you can have it write majority of your article, and then, or at least an outline. Like if you're writing technical stuff, I would suggest, use it to like create the outline, and you as a human still need to do a lot of stuff. But for top of the funnel stuff, like if you're doing, framework versus another framework, or the 10 benefits of like learning to code, like it's really good at writing.
So what we do, our process is typically Kevin and I will come up with the outline, and then we feed the outline the ChatGPT, and it'll write some initial stuff, and it'll come back with like 7 paragraphs, and then we're in each paragraph reading it and then changing it. Sometimes we'll reprompt it. So it takes a lot of, I don't know, to write an article probably takes us 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah, it's like back and forth.
So I was going to say the benefit of AirOps is that you're able to create like different like flows where it's like, how you have to kind of repeat sometimes. You have to like, I had it write this and now I feed it back to ChatGPT and wait. Mm-hmm. You could create like this loop where it will take your outline, and for every key point in your outline, generate the blog post automatically. And what other thing you could do with AirOps, you're able to, let's say you have your specific content for your business. It could live in a vector database store. Mm-hmm. And so when it creates your article, it creates it off the data that you point to. So you could make stuff that's a little bit more specific to what you do.
Okay, I've got kind of 2 tools as well. The first one is just, it's ChatGPT, but not just ChatGPT. It's the voice version of ChatGPT. Remember the part they got, like, that Scarlett Johansson they had to take out? That part, the advanced voice that they added to ChatGPT like a few months back. It's that. Voice interacting with ChatGPT and having a conversation with it is really interesting because you can talk about absolutely anything. And my tip for talking to it is to, if I'm having a discussion with it, I instruct it up front to give it counterpoints to my points. So like my point of view, I'm talking about something. I'm like, hey, can you always kind of give me the counter argument to my point?
Sure.
And kind of push back on me, and not just agree with me, because otherwise, if you're talking to it, it will just agree with you, and it's just like it's an echo chamber, and that's not really good. But yeah, it does a really good job of that, and it's interesting to talk to, and it's really easy to talk to because of the way that it's now really fast, and you can interrupt it. It's kind of like giving you a boring answer. You just like ask the next question, it'll kind of shut up and give you whatever you want to talk about. I think it's really good. I think it's underrated. I use it on my phone. You just hit the little button on my phone. I literally have it like as on my phone. I have it as the icon up here, and it's on my home screen. I just click it, and you can chat to it, and and it becomes a regular chat, and it becomes part of your history too, and it creates a really good memory of stuff you chat about too. Like it knows like what I think about like existentialism and like where I lean like politically and where I've lived and like the name of my cat, and it knows all of this stuff and it can reference this stuff. It's really cool. Like it's really interesting in the way that it works. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't checked it out. And my other one is Suno, just because I like making the songs for the end of this podcast. It's still fun. Yeah. It's still fun to make those songs, and it's such a great tool. It just it's a fun use of AI that I think is actually still really good. I use a combination of ChatGPT to write lyrics and then use Suno to create the song. But I'll also just look on Suno sometimes and just for inspiration, because there's lots and lots of stuff on there. I'd be like, because you have to come up with not only the lyrics, but you also have to give it the genre of music. And I'll find something on there sometimes like, oh, that's cool. Like, what genre is that in? And I'll just steal the genre and I'll just make that my own version of it. And it's cool. And the tools are getting so good now. You can replace parts of the song. You can actually use an image now. You can feed Suno an image, and it'll create a song based on the image you're giving it, not just a text description anymore. It'll write lyrics and everything. It's just fun. So I don't know what our song's going to be about this week. Probably about the NSA.
Yeah.
The NSA phone song. So next after this, at the end, you'll probably hear a song.
Easy to rhyme NSA. That's going to have.
Right.
Yeah. That'll be a ridiculous song.
Yeah. But yeah, those are my two. Okay, well, that's it for this week's episode of the Not Null Podcast. If I could ask you to do a couple of things, please let a friend know about the podcast and leave a rating and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe to get notifications. That would be awesome. You can also drop us an email. Where can they drop an email to, Sarah?
The Not Null Podcast at AOL.com.
That's it. You can also drop us a text message at the link in the description. And we'll see everybody next week.
Fumes all night, no end in sight. Scrolling through the noise, can't get it right. Time to break the loop, hit that restart. Wipe the slate clean, it's a brand new start. Shut down, reboot, let the glitches fall away. Every restart makes tomorrow a safer day. Don't let no words dance in your head. Power down now, get ahead. Power down, feel the beat drop now. Restart the rhythm, reset, take a bow. One simple move, stop the thread in its track. Flip the switch, baby, bounce right back. Power down, feel the bass drop now. Restart the rhythm, reset, take a bow. One simple move, stop the thread in its track. Flip the switch, baby, bounce right back. Bounce. Wi-Fi, stealing your vibe. Bluetooth lurking, hiding inside. One tap reboot with hackers goodbye. Your phone's fresh like stars in the sky. Shut down, reboot, let the glitches fall away. Every restart makes tomorrow a safer day. Power down, feel the bass drop now. Restart the rhythm, reset, take a bow. One simple move, stop the thread in its track. Flip the switch, baby, bounce right back. Power down, power up, reset the night. Keeping it fresh, everything's tight.